Hi everyone, it's Jeanette here from the sewing studio with a finish. Really pleased face, look, really excited because I've got a finish. Now you'll see the quilt behind me. Now you will have seen it before. We did a video back, I think it was about December time last year, which was called 4 Easy 4-Patch Blocks. And it was one of the blocks I showed there, but we didn't actually sew it together. I just sort of showed you the parts and the layout for it. And I thought we would just revisit it, because I finished the quilt. Literally, I was sewing the binding on this yesterday, so it got finished yesterday, just in time for this. So I thought I'd like to bring it back and show you all that I finished it. I'll talk a little bit about the quilt at the end. I'll talk to you about sort of dimensions and how I quilted it, etc., etc. But this was a quilt that I made from my scraps, and my challenge to myself was I wasn't allowed to buy any fabric. It all had to come out of my fabric scraps and my stash. And I've managed to do it. Now, my one regret, I'm probably going to call it, is that if I'd had a big enough piece of black fabric that I could have put a nice border on it, I probably would have bordered it. But anyway, I didn't, so I stuck to my challenge. I didn't break my own rules, but I managed to get 30 blocks, so that was really good. I had some more monochrome fabrics left, but I was running out of the long strips that you need for the borders, so I sort of didn't think I was going to have enough for another row in any direction on this, so I stopped at the 30 blocks. So I thought we would revisit it. As I said, I will show you how I made the blocks, which we didn't cover in the last one. And as I said, then we'll talk a little bit about the quilt itself. So to make each block, what you're going to need is 4 2.5-inch squares. And I sort of stuck to a principle of each block has got a medium, a dark and a light fabric in it. So you can see here I've picked 4, and the 4 patches are made of different fabrics. I've picked 2 grey and 2 sort of light or white. I think both of those are whitish. That's a little bit of an off-white. And that's for the centre. And then the border, I've used my dark fabric in the border for this one. So you need 2 2.5 by 4.5, which is going to go onto the sides, and then 2 pieces, which are 2.5 by 8.5. Now, to have enough fabric for that all to be the same fabric in the frame, it's called a framed 4-patch, you need at least 26 inches of a 2.5-inch strip. And that was the fabric I was running short of, which is why I sort of stopped at the 30 blocks. So let's take all those pieces to the sewing machine, and I'll show you how to sew them together. Okay, so the one thing I like about this machine, and this is the 9480 Janome, is it gives you a nice work surface. So I've laid out my 4 patches here, look, and I'm just going to sew those together. Now, some people leave that thread connecting it. For this small block, I don't tend to worry. And in a minute, it'll allow me to open up that centre seam. So then once we've done that, I've pressed the seams in opposite directions. So this one, I go towards the darker fabric, so it's gone towards the grey. And I'm just going to nest those seams, and I just sort of give them a bit of a smush. And then that should have a nice centre point there. Now once we've got that, and there's our nice point there where all our seams are matching, and now I'm just going to make these seams go in the same direction. So these are going anti-clockwise, and what that does is it just pops open that centre. So I'm just going to give that a little press with my finger, and that's going to be flat enough for now. And now I'm going to put my edges on. So the 2 shorter pieces, so these were 2.5 by 4.5, these go on first. And I tend to sew it from this side so I can see what that seam's doing. The machine was beeping at me there because I was being too quick. I have to be a bit more patient and wait for it to finish its work. So now we can put these 2 longer edges on. And when I was doing this, I was sort of sewing it in between making other blocks, so sort of using it as a leader-ender project. And all that means is you sort of start and stop these elements rather than the small bit of scrap fabric that you saw me start on at the beginning of this, and it comes together really quickly. Or if you're just working on these blocks, you can just chain piece them through, which is just where you just sew one after the other. Now I'm finger pressing all of these seams towards the frame, the surrounding fabric. They'll naturally probably want to go that way anyway because there's less seams in that direction. And there's the block made, so we'll take that to the iron and give it a final press. So there's our block. So it's a really nice, quick and simple one. So should we go and have a little look at the quilt behind me? So as I said, it was 30 blocks, so I've done it in a 5x6 layout. So that finishes at 40 by 48. It's an 8-inch finished block. As I said, in each block we've got a dark, a medium and a light, and I've just sort of switched up the positions of those and then just sort of scattered the different ones throughout the quilt to try to sort of space out. Particularly the dark fabrics I think sort of stand out quite a lot on this one. Now I just quilted it really simply because this is actually going to be a quilt, and I think I said back in the video we did back in December that I'm going to be giving this to Project Linus UK, so our local representative. Probably by the time this goes to air, she may already have had it, because I'm seeing her in about a week or so. So Sally, our local representative, is going to have this quilt with some others that one of my quilt groups have been doing for Project Linus UK. So it was really nice that I can use up a lot of my scraps. As I said, my challenge was not to buy any fabric, to use what I had. The only thing I bought in this quilt was the wadding. Even the backing, I've used sort of like this snake print on the back, and that was a piece of fabric, 3-metre piece that was given to me. So it's all sort of fabrics that needed to fulfil their destiny, and they're going to. As I was saying, I chose, because it's going to be a charity quilt, I wanted it to be quite snuggly. So I did think I was going to free motion it, and I thought, no, I don't want to put too much thread in it, because the more you quilt something, the stiffer the quilt becomes. So I wanted it to sort of quite soft and snuggly. So all I've done is sort of stitched in the ditch. So I've gone around the outside and across the middle of the 4 patches, and then just around all the frames. And when you come to doing sort of the frames, you can literally just go in sort of straight lines, horizontally and vertically, and that captures all those points. So it actually quilted up really quite quickly as well. This little piece of binding here, this was a piece of offcut of fabric that I had, and there was just enough. I think it takes 5 width of fabric strips to go around the border. I think I worked out you need about 180 inches for this size quilt of binding. Now, because of the size of it, and because I was quilting up my machine at home, it fitted on a width of fabric. It's 40 inches, so I had sort of 42 usable, but you've got your selvages, which you can sort of use as excess fabric when you're quilting. So it fitted on a width of fabric really well, and as I said, I just sort of needed about 55 inches, I think I used off that piece. So this is my Project Linus quilt. I know, like I say, I think back in December I had about 5 or 6 blocks made, so it's all done, really pleased. As I said, I made it, they were bonus blocks, I was making them in between making other things, so it came together really quite quickly. If I'd just sort of sat and made the blocks, it would have been a breeze. I probably could have done it in a weekend, but really pleased with how it's turned out. So I hope you like seeing my finish. That's one more to tick up my work in progress list, so that's one down. I need to move on to my next finish now, don't I? So thank you for joining me today, and I hope you'll join us again here next time in the sewing studio.